gonna be rough today, Jason. This one's gonna be a little bit rough, man.
Why's that?
I'd like to pull back the curtain for a second on Jeff's life and just say I am recording. Jason and I. Well, welcome everybody to the Rage Select podcast, by the way. But Jason, is remoting in. I don't know what time of the day or night it is on Ceti Alpha V, but here in Austin, Texas, it's about midnight, right? So
yes,
we're going to record this podcast. That's about 2 hours long. And then as soon as we're done doing that, I've got to get the final things put together for getting the site together. Then I have to get my car and go to the airport to fly out of Austin, at which point I'll have been awake for like 28 hours or something like that. And it's just going to keep going.
I'm sorry, man.
No, it's not your fault.
Time has no meaning on Ceti Alpha V. It's all just one big sandstorm.
You don't know when the sun's coming up or going down. All you got to do is get high on earworms and
dude, have you tried that?
It's
great.
Read Moby Dick a little bit, just the stuff, normal stuff to pass the time.
From hell's heart, I stab. Oh, shit, did you see that?
I think I'd like to see a remake of Wrath of Khan with you in the role of Khan, where you're just like, when his little man boy is like trying to get him to turn around, or when Kirk is like fucking with him and you're just like, I got a ship, it's fine, I don't need it.
Yeah.
Hell's Heart, that seems like a lot of work, you guys, just a shitload of work.
Ramming speed.
What do you mean there's no scotch on this ship? Turn this shit around.
We don't have a replicator? Oh, that's later?
That's right.
They get those later.
You'd be tinkering with the Genesis device to see if you could just turn an entire water planet into, just booze, just beers.
What about that guy in the engineering room on the Enterprise? Can we beam him over? Surely he's holding something. He's got a flask. What's his name? Scotty. That's right.
There you go. Well, let's see. Before we get started, we got a couple of things I thought real fast to go over. First of all, I don't know. Did anybody post this 4chan thing to your Facebook wall, Jason?
Yes.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, I want to read this interaction online because this is just really, I love the fact that this is where your reputation has taken you, Jason.
Yay! I'm so proud.
Anonymous posts on 4chan. It's like, unless the first person number one, unless you trust major cable companies not to fuck up the internet, you might want to let your voice be heard. Some kind of thing. And then you got another person that says, yeah, I'll click on a button on a website. That'll solve everyone's problems. You fucking idiot. If you want real change, you will track down the fuckers who are buried or who are behind this and stab them in the eye socket with the Derwent Ivory Black 67 pencil right through into the frontal lobes. And then person number 3, this might be an odd question, but are you Jason Murphy from Rage Select?
I know. And I swear it wasn't me. I had nothing to do with that.
I think that you and or just you mostly. I mean, I'm back here running websites. You're out in Hollywood, California. You need to work to reappropriate the term Murphy's Law to just mean overwhelming violence.
I like it.
Take it away from that asshole who had it all those years and make it your own, so that when somebody is like, oh, I'm sorry I spilled my drink on you, I'll get you another one, and then the other person just like punches them in the face and knocks them the fuck out, and they're like, what happened? And you're just like, Murphy's Law, man, that's what it is.
That was 18-year-old scotch, you motherfucker.
Well, have you been? Let's see. Has anything interesting happened to you on the moons of Ceti Alpha? Is it?
Man, I'm trying to think of something interesting that I can tell everyone, and absolutely nothing is coming to mind right now. Let's see. Oh, had a really interesting conversation with a hobo today. That was fun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Went to lunch on this nice beach on Ceti Alpha V, and was just sitting there eating my enchiladas out of their little foam container, and then the guy I was eating with, he points and he's like, "Oh, look, there's a little hypodermic needle on the ground," and I was like, "Oh, that's appetizing. Okay, someone's clearly been shooting up the earworms." And then this guy walks up and I'm like, here we go. And he sits on the bench by us and he says, anybody sitting here? Like, nope, you just go right ahead, buddy. And then he's like, hey, I don't suppose you guys can help me get a meal. And we were like, oh, we're working right now. Somebody else had to buy this for us. And he was like, oh, all right, I got you. And I was like, and then he just said, I used to be a singer. I got a beautiful voice. I mean, he sounded like Loretta.
Yeah, I was about to say, were you sitting next to, are you sure that wasn't actually a lady? But...
Yeah, it's, well, I wouldn't call Loretta a lady either. But yeah, he's like, used to have a beautiful voice. I was going to be big, had beautiful music. Then I fucked it all up when I was a teenager. And now I'm just a beach bum. But yeah, he just keeps talking. And then he takes out this bandana. Mm-hmm. And he opens it up, and there's this giant shard of reflective glass, like a piece of a mirror.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, well, here's the part where one of us gets stabbed in the throat. And I had this thought process, and I'm like, do I tell Paul? Maybe I shouldn't tell Paul, because if I don't tell Paul, he'll be unaware, and that'll allow me to get away.
I think that you and you're getting along. You're learning the ways of Ceti Alpha V very quickly, Jason Murphy.
Yeah, and then he like drops this piece of glass, and he's like, "Oh, somebody left some glass here. I don't even." And I was just looking at him like, "You did, motherfucker."
Well, let's see. I do know there is one thing that I'm pretty sure you've done. That we could talk about real fast, and that is watch Snowpiercer.
Oh yeah, that was great
because they put that.
I actually watched. Right? Yeah, since we last recorded, mm-hmm. I watched Snowpiercer. Mm-hmm. I watched The Raid 2.
Okay,
finally, and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Oh wait, no, we talked about that. We talked about that already.
Yeah. Well, so you saw The Raid 2. What did you think of Raid 2?
Fucking awesome.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean,
hell, man.
Not as much just like straight up balls out action as the first one, but a really good like crime story, a really good like noirish crime story.
And the action that was there, my boner just straight hit the TV. Just
bonk.
Just like, yeah. Left and cracked the screen and everything. It was awesome. But yeah, God, the violence. It was just... I get all tingly just thinking about it.
Yep. And Snowpiercer, which it's funny.
Oh, and Snowpiercer, yes.
I think I don't know if I really realized, like, there's one scene towards the end of Snowpiercer where I was like, that Chris Evans, he's not so bad of a dramatic actor. Like, I mean, not that I thought that he was a bad actor or anything. It's just that to date, mostly what I've seen him doing is either smarting off or being the most wholesome Captain America ever, which are not exactly like the Shakespearean, you got to dig deep down and method act the shit out of this,
Yeah.
But there was some...
No, he nailed it. He carried it, man. I thought he did a great job.
Yeah, I thought it dragged a little bit towards the end. There's a kind of a turn towards the very end.
It kind of derails.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, that was an interesting. Also, I didn't recognize Alison Pill at first.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, so Alison Pill was in Scott Pilgrim. She was she was the drummer in Scott Pilgrim's band.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who was she? Where was she in there?
She was the teacher.
No shit.
In Snowpiercer, yeah.
I did not realize that.
Yep. She just shows up all over the place. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I thought that at least, I mean, I thought that there were a few parts of it that went on a little bit longer than I feel like maybe they should have. Like, I maybe would have liked to have seen a little bit more in a few different areas. I'm trying to be as vague as humanly possible here. Hopefully, that's not spoiling anything for anybody. But but all in all, I gotta appreciate that it was just creative as fuck. Right?
Yeah. I liked it. I liked it much more than I did Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Yep. And and by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, the way that Jason and I were both able to see this is apparently Snowpiercer is such a limited release that you can just go rent it on Amazon like right now. It was only like one person on my Facebook feed who was like, hey, you can actually do this. And I was like, what the fuck? Because usually when something like that happens, I got so many movie nerds on my Facebook that are just like, bam, 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 all down. But I guess they all went to go see it like in the theater on day one. But I was like, fuck that. I'm going to drink Lone Star and pause this shit to smoke every 12 minutes if I want to.
Right.
That's what I'm about. So yeah, that was pretty cool, and I'm glad that they did that. I think that's really I cannot wait for the day, Jason. I really can't wait for the day when I don't have to go to the goddamn movie theater or release it and have it in the movie theater for like a month and then just boom, give it to me on instant. Sell the Blu-ray later when. But because I'd be willing to pay, I would probably be willing to pay double. Like when the last time I went to see a movie, my ticket was IMAX 3D, and that was expensive, and it was like $15, right? I'd probably be willing to spend. I would be willing to spend $30 right now, right this second, if I could rent Captain America: The Winter Soldier for 48 hours. I probably would. I probably would have done that numerous times. Where I'd be like, you know what? I could either go to the bar tonight, have like a $40 or $50 tab. Or I could go buy a $12 pack of Lone Star and $30 worth of Captain America Winter Soldier and just sit on my couch and watch this shit because I've got 5.1 surround sound and a fucking 50-inch plasma screen TV. I don't need to go to the movie theater.
That's that fucking video game money right there, people. Let's plays.
Well, that's actually, we got an interesting story about that in the news sequence. But before we do that, we got like I got one more thing that I want to say to you, Jason. I mean, not really a whole lot has happened because I've just been front loading because I'm going to be out of town for the next couple days. But yesterday I came home and I was eating I think it was like Subway or whatever, and I was looking for something to watch, and so I pulled up Netflix. I just pulled up the Avengers, and I started watching like the back half of the Avengers, right? And so I just did that, and then I ended up just sitting there watching all of that. And then when I got done, Netflix brought up like, hey, you might also enjoy, and one of the things in there was like, oh yeah, Serenity. I haven't seen that in a while. So I was like, all right, well, I think I've fucked up my shoulder playing video games, so I'm just going to sit here watching.
What? Whoa. Stop the bus.
No,
let's talk about this. Was it Kinect?
No.
Were you playing Johann Sebastian Joust?
No.
Was it PlayStation Move at all?
Nope.
Was it Wii?
Nope. None of that.
It's just, you pathetic piece of shit. Tell me.
No, it was nothing. It was nothing. It's like a week ago. I was like, man, my left shoulder kind of hurts a little bit. And then there's a part of my brain that was like, I went to bed and I woke up the next day and I was like, okay, well, it's a little tingly still, but it seems like it's fine. And then I would spend the entire day playing video games on the internet, typing and doing shit. And by the time I went to go to bed, I was like, okay, well, it hurts a little bit more now, but I can't really stop playing video games. I mean, what am I going to do? Get a ringer over here? Like bring somebody else in to do that shit for me?
Yeah, what, Grant?
Yeah. But anyway, I've just been trying to limit my game playing this week to mostly when we play either warming up for or playing for videos. So not playing anywhere else. Anyway, I was watching Serenity and I was like, yeah, man, this shit is really good. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it. It was really good. And as I was watching it, I started to think, I think, Jason, that I like Serenity more than the Avengers.
Okay. I'm not gonna. I don't know. That's a tough one.
I think I like
it's close enough where I can't say you heretic burn in hell.
Right. Well, it's very much a thing that I only bring it up because I've been thinking about it, and I think that the operative in Serenity is a better bad guy than Loki, right? Loki's just I'm not saying Loki's a bad villain or anything, but he's very mustache twizzling like evil guy, right? He's Joe Evil Man, and he's good at doing that. He's very, he's out there. It's bow before me. He's like General Zod, right? But like the operative in Serenity has a lot more like going on with him, and I think that's maybe what I liked about Serenity was that like there were so many more things going on, like for those of you who haven't seen the movie, what the fuck? Just stop here. Don't skip past the spoilers. Just stop this right now and go watch it. But like the whole thing,
Serenity,
yeah, the whole thing with the planet and the Reapers or the Reavers. Sorry, I always get that confused in my head now. Like there was a little bit more going on there, and the fact that in that movie there weren't so many sacred cows to the point where Joss Whedon, like every time I watch that movie, I get in this mindset where I'm like, I don't know who's going to survive this shit, right? Because it seems like really perilous. You could be. I mean, okay, honestly, in the comments, all right, I want you guys to like when you were watching the Avengers in the theater, spoilers for the end of the Avengers in the theater, right? You were watching it in the theater, you're all wrapped up inside of the story while you're watching it. Tony Stark taking the nuke up, and then he's falling back down. None of us...
You know he's going to be fine.
Right. They're not going to kill off fucking the guy, the character who launched this entire franchise. I mean, there's a part of your brain that's in the movie logic, and then you're like, oh no, Tony Stark, like, you know, they pull the mask off. And like, oh no, I can't believe he's... But deep down in your brain, you know that he's really going to be okay. Now, if they had, like, axed Hawkeye... like halfway through the movie, then maybe at that point in the movie you'd be like, oh shit, man, they just fucking murdered Hawkeye. I don't know who's going to make it out the other side of this.
Yes, so. I agree with that. There is, when you're watching something by Whedon, there is definitely that threat that anything goes, you know, and anybody can go. Yeah. Like what? Like George R. R. Martin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know, some people will come back and they'll say Agent Coulson, and oh man, I don't dislike that guy, but like there are a lot of people out there who are like, I love Agent Coulson, and I'm like, he seems okay. He's not really a deep or complicated character. He's
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I mean, he might very well be a deeper, more complicated character, but I only got like 6 or 7 episodes through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I want to go back and watch the rest of it.
Yeah.
But apparently it gets really good and complex and everything.
But you know what? As somebody who hasn't watched more than like 2 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and maybe if I go back and watch the rest of it, it'll make a difference. But it's funny watching, I think this is the first time I've watched the Avengers since I watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and after we know that Coulson walks out on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that death in the Avengers has much less of an impact because you're like, well, I know that he's still alive. So it's just it's a lot harder. Like I guess that like the spectacle of, but I don't know, man. Like there's some of those shots in Serenity, like where the ships are flying at each other, and like there's some really interesting stuff going on in that movie. I don't know. I got to think about it.
Serenity's damn good, man. I'm not gonna lie. It's my little brother. He watched Serenity. He's like, dude, have you seen this movie, Serenity? And he called me, you know, and I'm like, yeah, man. Have you seen Firefly? And he's like, no. Is it like Serenity? And I'm like,
oh, it's Christmas.
I'm like, oh, I envy you. Oh, the place you're in now. And I told him, and he was like, what? And then he calls me back the next day. That was really good. Yeah. Like, you watched all of them?
Yep.
You know, they're like 13 or whatever, but
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'd like, you know,
and then after he watched Serenity, mm-hmm. he went back or after he watched Firefly, he went back to the theater and watched Serenity again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, I can tell you, my roommate and I, like back in the old days, this girl Mike that used to be my roommate, and we both got onto the Firefly kick like after it had been off TV already, right? Found it, sat down, just marathon through it. We were like sci-fi. I loved watching like sci-fi shit. So we both went to the theater, and I swear it was like when that shit with Wash happens, I was like, I mean, like I literally like kind of just. That was a thing where I did not see that coming even a mile away, and when it happened, it was so fucking fast. I was just like, "What the shit?" And like nothing really in the Avengers really did that. Like,
right? Well, we're deep in spoiler territory still.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But you know, the movie came out like 8 years ago or something. Yeah. So whatever. But yeah, when they kill Wash, Oh, Christmas. And it was executed in such a way. He did it in the Scorsese way.
Mm-hmm.
Like in, what was it, Goodfellas? When, God, what's his name?
Joe Pesci?
Yeah, Joe Pesci, yeah. I had to do his voice before it would come to me. Where Joe Pesci thinks he's becoming a made man, and he walks into the room, and he just says, oh, shit, and then they just kill him, like, right in the middle of the sentence, you know?
Yeah.
Just put a bullet in him, and it's just like the timing of it was just perfect.
Yeah, that's one of the things about Serenity that I have to, is that, like, when you look at that particular scene, that whole starting in space and then going all the way down to the planet, like, that was the triumphant arc for Wash's character. And so it's almost like breaking a movie law, right? Is that, like, he should, he gets down and he's mid quip of having successfully done this, and just and then at that point it's great because it unbalances you, and you just like, I don't know if any of these people are safe, and so it makes that part of the movie just like that much more on the edge of your seat. Like, I do not know legitimately what the fuck is going to happen here.
Can you imagine if I want to see this in all sorts of other action oriented films where someone gives a quip, like in all the Terminator, and then they just die.
Right.
Like, let off some steam, boom, and then Schwarzenegger's head explodes.
Right. Yeah. Anyway,
talk about a sucker punch.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know. The real point of bringing this up is I'm not trying to say that, like, I'm not saying this is set in stone, but watching it, I encourage all of you. They're both on Netflix if you got Netflix. I'm sure they're both on all that shit out there. I encourage all of you to go back out there and watch those two movies back to back and just see which one you find to be more engaging. I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying that Firefly has me on the edge of my seat way more than the Avengers does.
I can't argue with that. But those are two of my favorite films in the last 10 years.
Yeah. All right, well, we've dicked around quite enough, so let's get on to video game news. Our first bit of news is going to be a pair of stories that both came out last week, where there was an interview with Adam Boyes over at Sony Computer Entertainment of America and Chris Carla or something like that, the director of the ID at Xbox program, where both companies, Sony and Microsoft, are apparently considering how they would like to try to bring early access to both the PlayStation and the Xbox.
What?
Which is, from a developer perspective, you could see they want that moolah, right? They want that early access.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like, we want to find a way to start squeezing money out of products that don't completely exist yet.
Right. But the thing is that it's both of them, in both of their statements, they both have a lot of, they basically both say, we're trying to figure out how we could do this because we can't just do it like Steam, right? Like, they would have to have something in place, like with their cert processes, to be, say that you have to be able to pass like this amount of cert or something like that, because one of these days, I'm sure it's already happened, but one of these days, one of these motherfucking things is going to crash, and it's going to be a big one. And I can't, it's hard for me to tell, like, if the whole early access process, because people on the PC, they're used to this shit, right? With the PC, for those of us that have had PCs over the years, we've done mods, we've hacked, downloaded like weird underground patches to change graphical settings or texture updates or homebrew projects, like shit that nobody is saying is ever going to work right. But with the consoles, you can pretty much be assured that if you download a thing, it's going to be a full product thing.
Yeah, but back in the day, if you got an early access thing, it was a big deal.
Sure.
And it was also usually free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're seeing. Like this weekend, the Destiny beta starts. You'll see betas and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, do we think this is a thing, or Jason, do you think this is a thing that could work on consoles, or do you think they should just
Yeah.
stick to releasing like full-on games.
I think it could work. I give. Hang on, let me check my. No, there are no fucks in there. Early release game.
Yeah,
whatever. It's no. It's like, hey, here's this meal that we have for you. Oh, but the steak, totally haven't cooked it yet. Just a raw piece of meat. Okay, well, instead of $10, I'll give you $8 for this meal. No, I don't have any interest in that.
I don't think that either one. I mean, maybe they'll have to say that like you have to be like in beta, no alpha, none of that bullshit. You have to be in beta, and you have to show us. You have to demonstrate that you have the money to finish this bullshit. Because I can only imagine what like John Q. console dude who doesn't know shit, who just, has bought, I got a PlayStation, I got Madden, cool.
Yeah.
And then he downloads something that all his friends are talking about, and it's half
that could
broken.
bite him in the ass.
Yeah. It's because those people, it's going to be like Mojang and the whole Minecraft servers where people are charging people, and then they're coming back to Mojang to try to get refunds, and they're like, we don't have anything to do with that. Where if people download broken shit on those consoles, they're gonna blame Sony and Microsoft, not the developer. So
yeah, there's gonna have to be a lot of extended end user license stuff.
Yeah, nobody reads that shit. Have you ever read through an entire end user license agreement?
No, because I have shit to do.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I had a segue, but I'm so goddamn tired that I can't remember it. Speaking of the Xbox, it looks like taking the Kinect out of the box is totally working for Microsoft and the Xbox One.
Oh, no kidding.
Report here that said that in June, this is from Microsoft, but it says that in June, sales of the Xbox One were more than double those from May. So maybe, I mean, it's possible that was like the only thing that was holding them back, really?
More than double. That's big.
Yeah. They said, let's see, Microsoft presents its latest financial. Okay, in April, the company said it had shipped 5 million systems to date. While at the end of last year, consumers' sales were up to 3 million. Well, that's 2 million in 6 months. But I don't know. I mean, I really don't want. I really want the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 to be neck and neck, Jason. Like I don't ever want either one of them to be a very clear winner, because the more they've got to fight to keep the other guy down, the better off all of us are. Like,
yeah, I agree. But the whole thing with them doing better now, it's like, oh, I'm going to go buy a car. Well, it's why is it so expensive? Oh, it's because we're making you buy this giant horse cock that we strapped to the hood.
Are you saying you're not going to buy the new Toyota horsecock? Because that
sounds like Toyota horsecock.
Sounds like a hell of a car to me.
What did you ride over here? What? Tell me about what you rode. Phrasing. I don't know. But yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's like, okay, well, I guess we'll take the horsecock off and we'll sell it separately and lower the price on the car itself. Oh, okay. I'll take this car now that it is horsecockless.
I want to go make some stickers and take them to my local Best Buy. Just start slapping them on Xbox box that says, now with 50% less horsecock. Just like on the front
100% less horsecock.
Right. Well,
I will settle for nothing else.
There's still plenty of horsecock in all these consoles, all right? Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
There's some horsecock. There's some horsecock going on.
You guys, it's really fun to say horsecock. You should pause the podcast and just say it a few times to whoever's around you. I'm not going to
say it for yourself.
That's right.
Go say it to go tell your Nana. She'll get a good chuckle.
Speaking of horsecock, that's not very good. But speaking of horsecock, I don't know. You remember? Okay, so when was the last time we checked in on Star Citizen, Jason?
It's been a while.
Okay. Do you want to take a guess what Star Citizen is up to now?
Yeah, I got no idea. I got nothing.
48 million.
Oh, what they're up to, like how much money they have.
Yes.
I thought you meant like, what are they doing? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they were watching a movie. They're probably asleep right now. Probably taking a nap.
It's sliding down huge piles of cash in the lobby of Chris Roberts' building, his solid gold development studio.
They've got a slip and slide. It's made with $100 bills.
That's right. No, they're up to 48 million in their whole thing, and they announced a new bomber as a reward for hitting that. So, like, you remember we talked last week about Mighty Number 9 and their stretch goals and shit like that? Like, I don't even know at this point what... I mean, apparently, according to this story, if they hit the $49 million mark... that stretch goal for that is a plant, like a
what?
Quote, similar to a bonsai tree, the Centennial Bloom is a very famous Ziani plant indigenous to Iyalas 3 that blossoms for one night every 100 years. End quote. And that's their stretch goal for 49 million is a bonsai tree.
Wow, just go fuck yourself. How about that? a fucking tree that's not even real. Great.
Actually, the reason I brought this up is because it begs the question of, like, if you have, if you're doing a one-shot crowdfunding model, right? You're like, we need $100,000 to make this video game, right? And you hit $100,000, great, you're going to make the video game. And you got all these stretch goals up to, if we hit $500,000, we'll put this in. If we hit $1 million, we'll put this in. We'll hit $3 million, we'll put this in. And let's say that let's say you got stretch goals all the way up to like $5 million, right? And let's say that at the end of your Kickstarter, you hit $3 million. And then you start making your game and you leave the funding open on your website and people just keep throwing money into the barrel that you've got open there. At a certain point, isn't it reasonable to say that you guys can quit thinking up dumb stretch goals?
Just like, okay, well, we're going to get $7 million. We only asked for $100,000. We're going to just keep $6 million. Or how about that? Or we're just going to fucking keep it.
Or just be honest with them and be honest with the people who are donating and say, look, we're going to spend all this money on making this game. So the more money that you guys spend, the more refined we can make this game. So at a certain point, it's going to be more work for us to just be like Robert Space Industries must have a guy whose only job is to essentially think up to infinity money this shit, right? Like, if we hit $50 million, it's a space bus with Jimi Hendrix's face on the front of it. And if we hit $60 million, it's a planet made out of farts with a poop ring around it. Like, now
that's a gas giant.
At some point, you just have to say, I don't know. Here's the question. Do you think that it's irresponsible of them to leave the crowdfunding open for people to continue putting money in at a certain point? Or do you think that it's just like, people keep putting money in, so we're just going to keep...
Yeah, what are you going to do? It's like, no, keep your currency. We are too... Fuck no, man. You want to keep putting money in that hole? Go for it.
I worry about it ending up coming around and crashing. In that I worry that, like, let's just say that by the time Star Citizen is done with their crowdfunding, that they've got, let's be real conservative, like just $50 million, right? And that when the game comes out, is there any way that what actually exists is going to be able to meet the expectations of the people out there? Because, it can't be, like, have you donated to Star Citizen, Jason?
No.
Well, I haven't donated to Star Citizen. I get the feeling the same people are donating over and over again because I got a bunch of friends and I don't think none of them at least brought it up to me. I know that there are a few people on the website that have, but I get the impression that they are now in this place where they've got the same people continuing to kind of put money in over and over again. Maybe not. Maybe they've just hit the crowdfunding jackpot because I've never seen I guess most things close eventually, but the people who have put in money after money after money to this thing, I would think that would just be buoying their expectations to a point where it's eventually going to become unreasonable, right? Or what they get in return can never live up to the amount Because we already see in Kickstarters that people will put $100,000 in to make a video game, and for anybody who's looked at what it actually costs to make a video game, that's nothing. And then what they get back out of that $100,000 video game, they're just like, "What? You guys had $100,000 and this is it?" It's like, yes, because
yeah, you don't understand this at all, do you?
Right. So now that Star Citizen is reaching like the development budget of a larger AAA game, right? Or I don't know. I mean, that seems like it would at least be a medium tier game to small AAA title, right? That the expectations are going to continue to rise along with the money, which seems like it could be a real problem for feature creep in Star Citizen, right? That the more money they get, the more they have to put in the game. The more they have to put in the game, the longer it's going to take to go feature complete. So,
and here's they're gonna hit like 3 billion or something, and
right.
They're gonna be like, here's the planet based on the Jeffersons. It's an entire planet based on the sitcom starring George Jefferson.
Sure, moving on up 12. I've been to that planet before. That was a pretty good one.
Precisely.
So yeah, I don't know. This is interesting. It came up in my news feed, and I was like, I think the last time we checked, they were at something like 30 or 35 million, and that wasn't a ridiculously long time ago. So, man, that's got to be rough. Next up, speaking of large amounts of cash infusions, I think this is something that's really interesting. It's not exactly like big news, but it's more of an opinion that I kind of wanted to get off of you, Jason, is that Gamasutra ran an article where they polled 141 YouTubers, right? Let's Players specifically. Okay, so they divided them into two groups. Those that have less than 500,000 or 50,000 less than 5,000 subscribers, aka right over here. Yo, what's up, Gamasutra? I didn't get your email. I'm just kidding. Gamasutra has no idea who the fuck we are. Nobody does. Like, not like Kotaku's out there like, damn, that Rage Select is hot right now. Boy, they're creeping up on. But they divided them into...
They should be.
Less than 5,000 subscribers and more than 5,000 subscribers. And then they asked them if they had ever received money specifically from game developers. And those less than 5,000 subscribers, 2% answered yes, 98% no. Of those with more than 5,000 subscribers, 69% no, but a quarter, 31% yes. And of that 31%, that was divided into 21% said yes, 5% said only when a dev offers money, and then 5% said prefer not to say, which I guess they leave in the yes category. It's
what?
26%. But anyway, this brings up a really interesting question of whether, I thought it was just something interesting that we could talk about, where it seems like of those YouTubers that have more than 5,000 subscribers, there's at least 20% of them that in this survey that are getting checks from video game companies in order to cover their games. What do you think, Jason? Is that a conflict of interest?
Hell yeah, it is.
Yeah?
I don't know. We're talking about Let's Players.
Yeah.
Well, they're not necessarily reviewing the games at that point.
Yeah.
They're just showing it. So, okay, you know what? I take it back. No, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
I kind of thought about it, and I agree that, I think it's weird in that I had no idea that was happening, and now I want more than 5,000 subscribers, goddammit.
Yeah, no shit. Come on.
Like, when the fuck did we get to sell out? I've been waiting. We have been doing this for a year. I have not gotten to sell out once yet.
Hook us up.
I'm pissed.
Yeah, the question is not do I sell out, but
wait,
who do I sell out to?
Holy shit! What the fuck? We got 8,813 subscribers. Never mind.
Yeah, you were saying that, and I was like, what? We have more than 5,000, dude.
Yeah, I forget sometimes to look at the numbers. Yeah, we got more than 5,000 subscribers. What the shit? I guess only 20% of them actually got paid, but like, what do I have to do? You know what? You know what we have to do is you, Jason. I'm sure that we have to get you to give a really heartfelt speech about how much you love Randy Pitchford and you're sorry for anything that you might have said that caused him to feel bad about himself or his dick or his horsecock, and then we can get the money. But right now they're afraid.
No deal.
Is that it?
No deal.
You're like, I will sell out in a minute, unless it means I have to apologize to that motherfucker right there.
I am a man of integrity, sir. How dare you impugn me with your scurrilous suggestions that I say something about that fucking wart on my butthole?
I don't know. I think this is. I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there who are really concerned about. I'm going to use my big quotey fingers here. Game journalists getting essentially paid off by game companies, and it's really complicated thing. Like, if a game company sends you a copy of a game to review, is that technically paying you off? If it is, then we're not getting paid off. Maybe I put up this whole story subconsciously because I just wanted to spend like 10 minutes going over the Rage Select street cred. Like, what's up? What's up? We're not getting paid. We got to buy all our games out of our own pocket. Just you guys and us. You could trust Rage Select. We're not taking money from anybody except for you.
Yeah, come on. Why aren't you motherfuckers trying to compromise our integrity? Come on. Yeah. It's like that episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when Mac finds out that or believes that the gym teacher has molested all these kids, and he's like, he never did me. Why is he not molesting me? What's wrong? Was there something wrong with me?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, part of it, I guess there is a kind of a question of like, if you know that somebody is getting money, right? Like if let's say Namco, let's say From Software sends me Dark Souls 2 a week before it comes out and a check, like, and then I go and we make a Let's Play video and I'm like, motherfucker, I love Dark Souls 2 so much. Look at this shit. This is great. But I think the problem there is that could you ever really believe me at that point if you knew that I was getting paid, even if I would legitimately did like it, even if you could look into my brain and know that I'm not lying to you. I really do think this is a good game and everybody else does too, and we're all on the same page. But it still seemed a little weird, right? That you were getting paid just for doing the whole Let's Play thing. I don't know.
You know, I mean, I think at this point, everybody already knows that they shouldn't believe me. So,
actually, I think you have more credibility on this website than, well, I don't know. I think that you have more credibility than I do because I still get upset when people are slightly bitchy with me in the comments. Whereas you're just like, don't give a fuck. I'm Jason Murphy. Like, yep, that's stupid. I've actually always wanted for you and my friend Chuck to have a show where you guys just shit all over everything that people like. Because I was talking with Grant.
Oh, I'd be good at that show.
I was talking with Grant about that. Like, I don't know if people remember this, but way back when we did our first live show, we did the Barmageddon back in the old days. My friend Chuck, if you ask him about Batman Arkham Asylum, this is what he'll say to you. That game is stupid. It's a piece of shit. It plays like shit. The story's shit. The dialogue is shit. And if you like it, you're shit. And you can be like, everybody likes it. He'd be like, everybody's wrong. They're stupid. And if you believe them, you're stupid as well as a piece of shit. And like, I've tried to just be like, it's not, I've seen bad games. It's not about, he's like, nope, it's shit. And you can't change his mind whatsoever. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world. But at a certain point, you got to admire the guy's integrity of just being like, that's what I think. And you can all eat all the dicks because I don't care.
Yeah. Well, your friend Charles is, he's a little crazy like that.
Yeah.
I mean, Arkham Asylum, really?
Yeah.
Now I know you're just trolling me.
And that's the thing, though, is that generally speaking, he doesn't do that. Like, he doesn't, or at least he's never let me in on the joke about doing it to get a rise out of people. Like, he will say things like that, and he is not joking with you. That is legitimately what he thinks. Like, and then when Arkham City came out, he was like, yeah, I got that. I played it for 10 minutes. That's a piece of shit, too. It's just the exact same game. Fuck that whole franchise. I don't understand. You're stupid. And I'm just like, I can't talk to you. I have to just walk away from it because the fanboy rage is difficult. Like, I want to punch him. He's my friend. But when he says shit like that, I want to hit him in the head with a bottle, right?
Yeah, if he genuinely believes that, he should probably seek mental help, like maybe at Arkham Asylum.
Well, speaking of piece of shit games, that's a good one. There was some news today. I think there might be a curse in the video game industry, Jason.
Okay.
I don't think that you should name your game Homefront ever in the history of mankind.
What happened?
Hasit Zala, the game director of Homefront the Revolution, has resigned from Crytek UK.
Oh, does this have anything to do with their financial or, excuse me, quote-unquote, rumored financial difficulties?
Well, you remember we had a story where 30 employees also left because they weren't getting paid, right? I'm pretty sure that is what's going on here.
That's a pretty good reason to leave.
Yeah, also the development manager, Ben Harris, also left this month. I would like to, right now, and this is another one where I want to talk to our fans directly, Jason, I want people to place your bets, and be honest, don't change your answer. Is this game ever even going to come out? Like, not is it going to be bad or good, but is it ever going to even come out, or is Homefront the Revolution vaporware now? Just like, gone.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I think they'll keep.
I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah,
I'm going to go with yes.
Yeah, I think they'll keep throwing money at it until eventually it comes out. Or I don't know. Because
not as much money as it will require.
Right.
But they'll keep throwing money at it.
I mean, maybe it'll get picked up. Maybe they'll dissolve Crytek UK and move it to a different studio or form a new studio or something. I still think it's going to come out, but I don't know what the fuck is going on over there. But like, I haven't seen reports of this kind of exodus from a studio before a game is even released. Usually, games got to come out before they fire everybody. But here,
exactly.
Yeah. So that's interesting. We also now I'd like to get to the part of the news segment where we have 3 trailers to look at today. 1 old and 2 new-ish. First up, we missed this last week because I think that, and the reason I bring this up is because, we'll get to that in a minute. Battleborn. Did you watch the trailer for this, Jason?
I did. It looks like it's very much appealing to video games that like a fantasy setting with an androgynous hero with a sharp chin and sylvan wings.
Well, this is an FPS MOBA that's being developed by 2K. Yeah. And actually, I really absolutely love we were talking about before, your most favorite person, Randy Pitchford, has said, this is a ridiculous quote, because there's stuff in here that I don't know what the fuck these words mean when you put them together. Okay, here we go. As a genre-fused, hobby-grade, cooperative and competitive FPS exploding with eye-popping style and an imaginative universe, Battleborn is the most ambitious video game that Gearbox has ever created. I think that's a load of horse shit. Because it's a fucking MOBA, man. MOBAs are the new MMOs. Like, we know, like, there's 2. That's why I brought this up, because this trailer actually came out like 9 days ago as of recording this. But I want to put my flag down and just say, I think that MOBA's got another 2 or 3 years before. I mean, I already think that we're seeing everybody's putting one out, right? Everybody's trying to get be the next one on the MOBA craze. I think this shit's going to peter out like MMOs did, right? Where they're still going to have them, like League and Dota aren't going anywhere, but, you know.
Well, I mean, everything has its time, right? I think we're probably going to find a big, like, a MOBA that even casual gamers can get into, you know, as much as you hate that phrase, and I can't disagree with you, you know, that's the one that the system seller, you know, the one that moves Xboxes. I think we're going to see that, and then we're going to see it start tapering off.
Well, you know that Blizzard is making one as well, which...
Oh, yeah.
Heroes of Blizzard or Heroes of the Storm or whatever that was. But
right,
it's Heroes of the Storm because it's all HOTS with them now. It's everything has HOTS as the subtitle. But yeah,
HOTS. You guys should watch the movie HOTS. It was made in the early 80s, and there are lots of tits in it. It's awesome.
Is it a porno?
No, it's not a porno.
Uh-huh.
It's one of those early 80s sex comedies.
Oh, okay.
So, boobies. Big, natural boobies.
3 Playboy playmates, apparently. Okay.
Yes.
As well as a former Miss USA from 1972.
Oh, wait, did you look that up?
Yep.
You must have looked it up. Yeah. I have a copy of...
I just have an encyclopedic knowledge of the movie HOTS, Jason. I just know that shit off the top of my head.
I just thought, damn, Jeff, dropping some knowledge. No, I have a copy of this somewhere, and I've always meant to show it at a little mini movie marathon at my place, but haven't done it yet. But yeah, it's like flag football with women, and it's like shirts versus skins or something like that.
Okay.
It's pretty fucking brilliant. I mean, I don't want to compare it to Schindler's List, but it's better than Schindler's List.
Is it as good as Flesh Gordon?
It's not as good as Flesh Gordon.
Okay.
It is better than Fletch.
Okay, I can tell you guys right now, if you type HOTS with periods in between into Google image search with safe search turned off, you get a lot of tits back. I'm just saying that right now.
So, hey, pro user tip for the Google from Jeff.
Well,
that's how you find if you're having difficulty finding tits on the internet.
Actually, if you just go to Google and
consider a new hobby.
If you turn safe search off and type anything in, you kind of get tits back from Google.
It's true. It's true.
Actually, it's funny.
You can type like paper making, and within the top 40 results,
right,
there's going to be some titties in there, probably.
It's funny because there's like tits. Oh, look, it's Kerrigan because Heart of the Swarm is also HOTS. So, anyway, I don't know. I looked at the trailer for this Battleborn thing, and I think it looks kind of stupid personally. Like,
yeah, I watched it and I was like, all right, whatever.
I mean, there's no I don't know. Maybe eventually I looked at some screenshots. It looked okay. I think that having your character from a first-person perspective might be a kind of an interesting thing for MOBAs, but I don't really like the character design all that much. Like the way the characters are radically different looking. Like the guy with a chain gun is like 2 stories tall, and then you get this little girl in a dress hovering above the ground. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really a mishmash of stuff. I see it, and I just go, okay, that's I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna rank that as a dojo.
Yeah, probably.
In that's the only time I'm ever going to play it.
I just wonder what a hobby grade first person shooter is. Like
that's Randy Pitchford being a marketing bitch. That's what that is.
Okay. All right. Next up, we have a trailer for. Evo was last week or last weekend or at some point near where we are in the space-time continuum.
Yes.
A trailer for Tekken 7.
Yeah, this is a shit trailer.
It looks like a Japanese horror movie trailer, actually.
It was weird. I kind of like the jittery camera effect that they had on there.
Of course you do.
Yeah, but we didn't, it looked kind of atmospheric, but the voice acting was still bad. And there was a lot of stuff in there that was for Tekken fans, which I like Tekken, but I don't really have a grasp on the lore or anything. And then there wasn't any gameplay.
No, yeah, I kept waiting for them to have a little montage, and they're going to be releasing more footage at San Diego Comic-Con. So this is just like the teaser for Evo, because I'm sure they'll have more eyes on them at San Diego Comic-Con. The only thing I could say from this is I think I don't know Tekken lore very well. I mean, I played a few of them, but I haven't keep up with the story. I think that lady, though, is like Heihachi's wife, like who's supposed to be dead, that they're bringing back, which makes you realize that Heihachi had to be married at one time, and that dude just seems too severe, like to go out on a date or something. Like, I don't know.
He probably just demands anal at the end of the night.
Well, he had to have a kid, right? because what's his face? Not the
Yeah,
nerdy guy.
that's true.
It was his kid, so I don't know.
So maybe not always anal, but there's anal in there.
I don't know. I
And
wonder,
probably some slapping and stuff like that.
my only question about this is, obviously this is being made by Bandai Namco or Namco Bandai. I always want to say it. They reversed it, I think, like a couple weeks ago. It used to be Namco Bandai, and now it's Bandai Namco, and I'm just like, God damn it, pick some shit. But I really want to know, have they officially canceled Tekken Cross Street Fighter yet? Because I'm still waiting. Like,
oh yeah, that hasn't come out, has it?
Nope. Street Fighter Cross Tekken did, but Tekken Cross Street Fighter, as far as I can tell, nowhere to be seen. And last up, we had a trailer. This is part of actually two trailers that came out of E3 that I think this was their 30-minute closed-door show for Dragon Age Inquisition, and they've managed to finally do it, and I'm interested in playing Dragon Age Inquisition, Jason.
It looks good.
It does look good. And
it looks good. It was moody. It was atmospheric. Great art design.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it looks cool.
And I started thinking back to Dragon Age 2, right? And I think my main problem with Dragon Age 2 was that the areas that you were in, there was the one big city, and there was like the one outside area, and there were a few different caverns that they just remixed for different things. And this, along with, you didn't actually watch the first part, but this looks like I think that was my main problem with Dragon Age 2, was just that it felt very repetitive because you were in the same place over and over and over and over again. I like the way the environments look in this game. Like, I think it looks really good. The only thing about it is that they're banking a lot on this because they've come out and said that this is going to be the way that all of EA's RPGs are going to be.
That's okay. That's
or it was BioWare. I don't remember the exact quote, but this is being used as a template that they're going to use for several other things to come out of EA because it's Frostbite.
Well, I hope it works.
Yeah, but I
like having a sameness of control schema. Some people don't. I really like it. I think it's inviting to new players when, especially to casual people, people who maybe play a game every now and then, to where, I can just pick this up and play it, and I'm not intimidated by the control layout.
Right. Well, that's for a game like this. There's a certain amount of fun to be had through the progression of the game. But like, I can tell you that when I played the Mass Effect franchise, like a good solid 50% of my enjoyment of Mass Effect was the story. So as long as they can nail the story, which in this trailer it looks like they had some pretty goddamn heavy story beats in this trailer. I think as long as they could do that and not just have it set in the same area over and over again, that was good. We also saw a little bit more of the commander mode where you can give people orders.
Oh, yeah.
Seems a little redundant because you can switch between the characters at will, right? So it seems like you just
right
put them where you want them.
You're already controlling them.
Yeah, and there was one part where they showed basically setting up kind of like a choke point. But then when they did that, they finished that encounter so quickly that it was just like, did you even need to do that? These guys seemed like they were level 1 assholes.
Yeah.
Everything else, though, I am now officially looking forward to Dragon Age Inquisition. It looks really good.
I hope I can play it without having a big familiarity with the first two.
I can tell you that I'm moderately familiar with the first one, and I remember at least enough about the second one. This looks like it's just completely off in a different direction.
Okay.
Mass
Effect, there's definitely a payoff if you were familiar with the story of 1 and 2.
I could be wrong. I don't, because I never got into Dragon Age 1 enough, but Dragon Age 2 seemed to be going in an entirely different direction than Dragon Age 1. Like, Dragon Age 1 was more about, I can't remember what they called it, but it was like, your standard video game, the oncoming darkness that's been asleep for 1,000 years, and now there's monsters coming out, and you got the Grey Wardens, and they're fighting against them. And then Dragon Age 2 seemed to be more about, because in the Dragon Age universe, wizards are real goddamn dangerous, because the power can let them essentially be possessed by demons if they can't use it correctly. So Dragon Age 2 seemed to focus more on that, and this, I don't know, seems to be a little bit of both, right? Because we had these chaos rifts that they were closing, but then we also had some mages that were doing fucked up shit. I don't know. I really want to know in this particular trailer whether at the end of the trailer, the implication seemed to be that everybody in the party except for the main character and one other dude was dead. And I'm like, that's interesting if they would have enough characters in this game that they could actually kill characters off. See the Serenity discussion we were having at the very beginning of the podcast.
Yeah. Have some stakes in there. Make things count.
Yeah. I mean, because the only time I remember, help me out here, Jason. The only time like in Mass Effect that I can remember is the end of Mass Effect 2, your decisions could maybe get some people killed, right? But 3, I don't remember there being any place where you could get people killed in 3. Like 2,
even at the very end.
No,
I don't remember exactly.
No, because you remember the whole ending is you're running towards the laser beam, right? And your whole party gets taken off on the Normandy, and then you go. So I think everybody on the Normandy survives, or maybe there was one or no. It was based on your galactic readiness. Remember how much?
Oh, right.
Is that people get killed off at various points in the end game? Sorry, it took me a minute to remember that. But still, I would like to see a game, and this is just pie in the sky shit, but I think Dragon Age Inquisition would be cool if you had potentially like 20 to 25 different people that could all be mixed and matched in like a party of 5 with your main character, but that sometimes in the course of the plot, if you pick these decisions over here, they're going to put you at a decision like in the first Mass Effect where it's like, you got these 2 people, you can only save one. Which one's it going to be, motherfucker? Because
it's like, hey, listen, the Mass Effect formula worked really, really well for the most part. So why not just mimic that?
And I think Dragon Age 1 might have done some of that, but I never got far enough in the game. I just kept getting everybody killed and then game over, and then I stopped playing Dragon Age 1. All right, so we have one more story here, Jason, and this is a wonderful story. I don't think we're going to have much to say about it, but it's a lovely story. I fucking love this story. So you remember last week, or was it the week before, where Lindsay Lohan was suing Rockstar about her likeness in Grand Theft Auto 5, okay?
Yeah.
All right. Somebody else is suing another company about his actual depiction in a video game. Can you guess, just from that vague description, who I'm talking about?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Trevor? Is Trevor real?
No, Trevor is
not. I gotta go lock the doors if Trevor's real.
Okay. The company in question is Activision Blizzard. I'll give you that hint. Got anything? All right.
No.
We're running over time here. Manuel Noriega is suing Activision Blizzard over his depiction in Call of Duty Black Ops 2.
What? I thought he was dead.
Oh, yeah. No, here's a direct quote from a Joystick article. The 80-year-old Noriega's lawsuit claims he is portrayed as a, quote, kidnapper, murderer, and enemy of the state, unquote, which helped elevate sales of the game, and he's seeking damages.
Yeah, aren't all those things, like, just a matter of public record that you are those things?
I don't know, but I love the fact that the fucking dictator of a country is suing over a video game. I mean, like, are we really at this point in history where this guy is like, man, he is giving like 16-year-old college stoners the wrong idea about who I am, all right?
Yeah.
I like to imagine Manuel Noriega has only gone this far because Black Ops 2's been out for a long time, right? But then it came out and he played it and he was just like, but that's not what I'm really like. And then he's hurt, and he's talking with his friends about it all the time. And then eventually they're like, dude, you have to get over this. And he's like, no, I'm going to sue them. And
you know what it was?
What's that?
He tried to play multiplayer, and he got pwned.
By somebody using the Manuel Noriega skin in multiplayer.
Yes.
Like, this is wrong. Oh, I love this. I love this story so much. I love it. And that's all the news that we have. But stay tuned because we have a bunch of y'all's emails that we are going to read coming up momentarily. The email address for this podcast is mail@rageselect.com. I'll repeat that again when we come back. So stay tuned, and we'll be back in just a moment. All right, everybody, and we are back, and it's time. It's time, Jason, for the questions.
Bring them.
People have a lot of questions for us this week. So this first one I feel is almost entirely directed at you, and I was curious about this too. Or just as a talking point. This one comes in from Kortovos, who says, "Dear Rage Masters, this question is primarily for the comic book guru himself, Jason, though Jeff may also pitch in with his infinite wisdom. Last week, there was a question about new persons succeeding existing characters like Dick Grayson's Batman or Miles Morales' Spider-Man. A few days later, Marvel announced that there will be a new Thor-wielding Mjolnir and that she will be female. So my question is, what are your thoughts about this? And will she be as interesting as Beta Ray Bill? I personally cannot wait to see a big, mead-swilling woman who kicks ass with a big hammer. Thanks for answering my question, and keep raging on. With kind regards, Kortovos." Kortovos,
I'm curious.
That's a rockin' name right there, Kortovos.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a super villain.
I'm curious about this whole making Thor a woman thing. Yeah, sure. If it's a good story, I'll read it. And it's gotten a lot of buzz in the mainstream press, and anything that's good for comics, I'm all for. And some people are getting up in arms on this, or about this. And what people need to remember is that at one point, Thor was a fucking frog.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's not get too worked up about him switching genders. And the writer, Jason Aaron, tweeted something interesting. He said, so many people think Thor should be a man. Well, I've been writing 25 issues where Thor was a god.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, yep, there you go.
The only thing I wonder is, and this is maybe something that I don't know if you and I have ever really talked about, is that I saw some sentiment online that it's like, this is just for publicity, right? That this is just a stunt. Because I don't think anybody here has any. Correct me if I'm wrong if you think so, Jason. But I don't think anybody here is going to be willing to say that Thor will now be a woman and will for the next 30 years be a woman, right?
Yeah, that's not going to happen because in the summer of 2015, we have another Avengers movie where Thor is a dude. And so this will be reversed by then, I guarantee you. And yeah, sure, it's a stunt, fine. I won't argue with that. Mm-hmm. As long as there's a good story to back it up, and there might be one there, we don't know yet. As long as it makes for an interesting read, yeah, fine, I don't care, whatever.
Okay, and you probably know more about this than I do, but they said that I seem to remember reading that we don't know who it is behind the Thor mask. Yeah,
it seems to be that they're leading to that someone else is wielding the hammer,
mm-hmm.
Rather than Thor just growing a vag or whatever.
Well, that happened in Earth X, right?
Friend Stark. You are smart in the ways of science. Wouldst thou look at something for me for a second? And also, I wonder if Tony Stark's going to try to fuck him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have any real opinion about this one way or the other because I don't really read comics very much anymore. Every so often, I'll get a wild hair and I'll read one of the comics that I already own, but I've never bought Thor or read Thor as anything other than a character in some of the Avengers comics that I've read over my life. So
yeah, well, I fell off of the current writer's arc. It didn't quite connect with me. I liked it, but I didn't feel compelled to read it month to month. But it does have a lot of fans, and he's. I've read Thor off and on over the last couple of years, and I think it's really good. It's right up there with some of the Walt Simonson stuff, which is legendary.
Okay, let me ask you this question because I've gone through my entire adult and child nerd life without knowing the answer to this question. What the fuck is Beta Ray Bill? Is he a horseman? Is that what he is?
No. He's an alien. He's an alien who encountered Thor.
Mm-hmm.
And they fought, and somehow he managed to get his hands on Mjolnir.
Mm-hmm.
And this was during Walt Simonson's legendary run, like I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
He managed to get his hands on Mjolnir and was worthy. And he could use it. And so he ends up going to Asgard, and he and Thor fight, I believe, for the right to hold the hammer. And they fight to a standstill. And so Odin basically commissions another hammer for Beta Ray Bill. After this fight, he's like, hey, you're a good guy and you need this, and here you go.
That seems like it would be a little bit of a, I mean, like, shouldn't Mjolnir be like a kind of a one-of-a-kind thing? I mean...
you would think. But no, there are lots of, like, Asgardian weapons like that. Like, right now, there's one that Thor has been using a lot called Yarnbjorn or something like that, which is this giant, like, god-killing axe. Okay. You know, so, yeah, it's not something that they make lightly, but it is a huge endeavor. Like a life-changing bit of work from the dwarves in blah blahheim or wherever they're from.
Okay, yeah. For my own, my infinite wisdom, as he puts it, I don't like. I think it's interesting, but I didn't read the Spider-Man where he had Doc Ock's brain in. I didn't read the Miles Morales Spider-Man. I read the Dick Grayson Batman stuff, but it was only because I'm kind of a whore when it comes to Grant Morrison, but even now I don't read. I mean, I was a whore for Grant Morrison. I read some of that. I think it was him that was writing the Dick Grayson Batman stuff, right?
He wrote some of it, but really the good stuff is the Scott Snyder.
Oh, okay. I mean, I think I read some of it and I was like, oh, this is all right. But yeah, I think it could be interesting. I honestly think that when it comes to superheroes, like established superheroes like Thor, I'm kind of in blank check territory personally. I'm like, you just do whatever the fuck you want to with these guys. Thor is now gay. It doesn't really matter to me because
you don't really have any attachment, so whatever. Just tell an interesting story.
Well, not so much that, but it's just that I feel like these characters have been that archetypal character. Thor has been Thor for how many issues of just Thor stories are there? Like
a lot of, like, actually thousands of years, literally.
Like Marvel Comics Thor, not I know, I know,
like a ton, like 300 something.
Right. That's why every time that any of these things happen, like I
don't know.
Ghost Rider's going to have a Camaro, and I'm like, that sounds cool. I mean, you've had like 15 years worth of Ghost Rider riding his motorcycle. Put him in a car. I don't give a fuck. Like, you want to make Dr. Doom the new leader of the X-Men? That sounds cool to me. Do that, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to get 12 or 15 bad comics that then you could just write off and never think about again.
Right. And that's the tricky thing about comic books is that the more popular the character is, the less they will change.
Yeah.
And they might change temporarily, but the less they will change for good. And so that really kind of puts a damper on the perceived threat and the drama of what's going on with that character. Like, it's like, okay, like pretty soon, like in the fall, I believe, Wolverine is going to die.
Okay.
And they've made a big deal about that. And it's like, okay, yeah, Wolverine's dead forever. Yeah, okay, you believe that? Really? You dumb motherfucker? No.
Yeah.
Wolverine will be back before too long.
Oh, you mean the biggest cash cow in the X-Men universe? Like,
exactly.
Yeah, I believe that's going to be done forever.
I hope they make it last for a while. Wipe the slate clean, make everyone really looking forward to the return of Wolverine, keep him out of the picture for a little while. But everybody wants him back, and that's money. And big companies like Marvel love money. And so, yeah, he's not going to be gone forever. They killed off Bruce Wayne, quote unquote. And
I remember reading how many of the X-Men have died? All of them, right?
That's a joke that Beast has made recently.
Yeah,
he's like, haven't we all died and come back at one time or another? And yeah, none of them stay dead, except the one who has stayed dead the longest. It seems is Jean Grey, the one who everyone says always comes back because she's the Phoenix. But if you think about it, she's been gone for over 10 years in the comics now.
Wait,
her adult self.
Wait, did she not come back after the Grant Morrison New X-Men run?
No.
Oh, really?
No,
I just assumed. I mean, that was kind of that was around the time I stopped reading comics. But I just assumed because it was comics that she was back within 8 months of that or whatever.
No, she's been dead since then. Now, they did some time travel stuff, so now in the modern era or whatever of X-Men comics, Beast did this thing where he brought all of the original X-Men into the current timeline.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's a young Hank McCoy, a young Jean Grey, and all that, but Phoenix Jean Grey, as we know her, no, she hasn't come back yet.
Interesting. I did not know that. Well, let's see. Our next question comes in from David. He says I can use his name, Fitchett, who says,
"Oh, fuck him."
Yeah. Hello, Jeff and Jason. I am a longtime listener of your work since the humble beginnings and recent Patreon subscriber. Thank you. Also, I am a first-time...
I retract my fuck him.
Also, I am a first-time emailer, questioner, caller. You're not calling, bro. This is an email. My question is related to some work I am currently interested in the field of philosophy that crosses over into the world of video games. I'm currently studying a master's in philosophy and recently started a side project on morality in video games and the use of games as educational tools. Games such as Mass Effect, Jade Empire, and Fallout, to name but a few, have touched upon moral choices and the ramification of said choices. Some might say in a light or immature way, but still allow for debate and interesting conversations to follow. My question to you then is whether or not games have the potential to be used as educational tools in order to discuss ethics and morality in the classroom via an easy sell of video games, and further, whether games should be used in this way. Thank you for reading my question, and stay classy, David Fitchett.
Absolutely, I think that's possible. In fact, it's interesting that you mentioned that because one of my best friends, one of my oldest friends, is actually known in the psychology field anyway for developing video games that teach empathy skills to children. And so I think that's totally possible. And I think we're seeing games become more... I hate to use the word responsible because I'm totally fine with irresponsibility in video games. That's kind of what they're for in a lot of cases. But mild spoiler, I'm not going to go into details, but the end of The Last of Us, I think, has some moral choices there. Of course, that's all The Walking Dead is.
It's funny that you say that because Grant and I finished our Patreon. We finished The Last of Us, and at the end, we got into a discussion on the Let's Play that then led to a way bigger discussion in the comment section because I'm like, I think Joel's kind of a piece of shit, and everybody's like, no, and it's like, well, look, I know you played him for 12 hours and that you develop empathy with the character that you are controlling, right? Because it's kind of an extension of yourself. But when you step back and look at Joel, he's not exactly the best person in the world. Like, and some of the things
he's not, but I get it.
Oh, me too. But that still doesn't mean that I won't sit here and go, you're a piece of shit. I mean, I understand why you're a piece of shit, but you're still a piece of shit.
Right. But that's what makes the ending of The Last of Us so good.
Yeah.
I mean, it is among the best video game endings of all time.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of, like, you remember the, I thought it was very striking at the beginning of like BioShock Infinite where they give you the baseball, right? They bring out the interracial married couple, and you have that choice about like, are you going to try to blend into the crowd by throwing it at the couple, or are you going to just throw it at the dude and perhaps blow all your cover or whatever? There's a lot of, because video games are an interactive medium, they have so much more potential to, and you know what I'm sorry, I'm going to start finishing my statements before I start another one, to guide us into another way of thinking. And the ones that I love the most are the ones that trick us into doing that, or that pull that shit out when we're not expecting it. Like, it's like we've talked about it before, and you never got a chance to play it all the way through, but I still think that Spec Ops: The Line, there is a scene in there that is like, anybody who knows that there's a mortar scene, right? That's very very much like a lot of other war games, except then they shove your face in what you just got done doing, and it is horrifying. And it's a thing that you would normally do in an action video game, in a military shooter, where you're just like, yeah, motherfucker, yeah, motherfucker, yeah, motherfucker. But in this one, it's like it has you going, yeah, motherfucker. And then the next scene is making you walk through the aftermath of what you just did. And it is presented in an incredibly horrifying fashion. And
I really need to play that.
It's a really interesting game. I mean, it's weird because I've read so many different articles and I've seen so many different analyses where it's like, it's not really a fun game, but it's a very interesting game. Or things like Papers, Please. I tell my friends all the time, like, how much I love Papers, Please, and that Papers, Please sets up this rule choice that makes you into an asshole because your priorities are not the priorities of the people that are coming through the Arstotzkan checkpoint. And that's an interesting way to show you the flip side. Like, it's my sincere hope that when you play Papers, Please, that you have more empathy for the person on the other side of the counter at the DMV, right? Where you've got a problem and you're trying to explain it to them and they're kind of writing you off. Not to necessarily excuse that behavior because, fucking everybody's going to get pissed off when people do that to them. But as a way of just seeing the other side of that interaction, I think that video games are a tool the likes of which we've never had before. And I've talked before about how I think that if we it's a matter of time, but if we manage to hit an area where you have the immersion of VR on top of that, it could be a tool for showing you things that you could never have considered otherwise.
Yes, and that answers the second part of his question, in that I think video games can be anything.
Oh, well, when he says should they be used this way, I think it's completely a choice, and I think that Papers, Please has nothing in common with Modern Warfare, and just like you said, nor should it, right?
Yeah, I mean they can be anything. It's like, you want a power fantasy? Here you go. You want an educational tool? Here's that. You want something that tells a story? We can do that too.
Right.
I think video games and what they can be is a very malleable medium, and they can be used for something. They can be used for cotton candy, or they can be used to educate.
Yeah, I mean, it's like saying, just because there are documentary films doesn't mean there shouldn't still be slasher horror flicks, right?
Precisely.
Yeah, is that you can have different, and I think that that's one of the things that we're starting to see more of as we see more of this kind of I usually call them like message games, like things like Papers, Please or Cart Life or other games where you've got a strong message in them. Is you've got I feel like the subdivisions of video games up until this point have very much been based on what sort of game it is, whether you've got an RTS or you've got a first-person shooter or a third-person shooter. That's how we classify games. I feel that maybe we're starting to hit the beginning where it makes more sense to classify games in more like genre-specific terms rather than just a description of exactly what that game is. I don't know.
Agreed. Yeah.
Something to consider.
Again, video games are very flexible, so let's bend and twist them and see what we can get out of the medium.
Yep. All right, this next one comes in from Russ, and Russ, this is actually another comic book related question, but I didn't want to do two in a row. Well, not really comic book, this is more just media in general, but Russ asks, hey guys, long-time listener since Spill, and he says, there is nothing wrong with nitpicking a detail or two from an adaptation if it's all in good fun and it's a movie you enjoy enough to accept little changes. What is an adaptation of something into a movie that you enjoyed, but there was one little detail about a character or setting that you would have preferred to see slightly truer to the original material? A recent example for myself was X-Men Days of Future Past and the fact that Bishop wasn't Australian. It's a tiny detail that didn't ruin the film at all, but I kept thinking he's one of the few mutants we got. Hope that doesn't put me in the same category as the bigots that hate the new casting of Human Torch or Heimdall. Okay. Keep raging. Hope this made sense, Russ. Jason, I didn't know.
Is he saying that Bishop was Australian in the comics? Because I wasn't aware of that.
That's what I was just about to ask you, because I wasn't aware of that either. Let's just take a look. Bishop comics.
Maybe he's saying that in the movie, which I haven't seen yet, unfortunately, I really want to. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's saying that in the movie, Bishop is clearly Australian. I don't know. But I do have an answer to the question.
Okay. I don't know. It seems like there might be, but I don't. I'm trying to figure out whether Bishop is Australian. You answer the question. I'm going to try to figure out whether Bishop was Australian, because this shit's bugging me.
My answer to the question is actually No Country for Old Men, which is a novel I loved dearly. Mm-hmm. And he's asking about like changes to the source material versus the movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think I don't know why the Coen brothers did this when they made the movie, but for those of you that have seen the movie, there is this sucker punch of a climax. It is the definition of an anticlimax. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it doesn't work. It pissed a lot of people off, people who weren't familiar with the film, and weren't familiar with the book, and people who were familiar with the book. Because the movie focuses very much on Josh Brolin's character. Mm-hmm. And you have monologues or voiceovers from Tommy Lee Jones's character at the beginning of the movie and at the end of the movie. But if you read the novel is every other chapter, if I'm not mistaken, is from the Tommy Lee Jones character's perspective. From the sheriff.
Okay.
And had they kept and so it's clearly, the novel is clearly Tommy Lee Jones's story.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the movie made it Josh Brolin's story. And so suddenly you have, spoiler, suddenly you have Josh Brolin being murdered off camera.
Yeah.
In the middle of this film, and you feel like the rug is being pulled out from under you. And I think that was the Coen brothers trying to be unconventional and so forth. But to me, it just feels like them being hipster assholes.
I can
because
see that.
if it's the movie should have been told from the Tommy Lee Jones perspective, to where in the book, every other chapter has a Tommy Lee Jones voiceover of his sheriff character. And so when Llewellyn gets gunned down at that motel in that town, it doesn't come off like someone's pulling a practical joke on you in the theater.
Yeah.
Because our main character is still very much intact. He's still our Greek chorus.
It kind of breaks. I mean, it kind of breaks the audience writer or director covenant, right? Is that we kind of put our faith in those characters, and so when you do that, I guess maybe the point for that movie was, or the part at least for me that was bothersome, was that it felt too disjointed. Like if killing off Josh Brolin's character had served the story in a specific way, it may have felt a little bit more relevant, but it almost felt like kind of what you were saying, where they were just like, haha, tricked you. You thought the movie was about that guy. It's not.
Yeah, it was the Coen brothers trying to subvert expectations and trying to be clever, and I don't think it worked. I didn't like the movie the first time I saw it, and then I read the book, and then I went and watched the movie again, and I liked it a lot more. And now at this point, and honestly, that's often the case with Coen Brothers films. I don't like them on first viewing, and then I watch them again and let it sink in. and I thought it was much more effective. But with this, I really had to digest the book and see where it should have gone, where, what was really going on behind this scene, and I liked it a lot more. There's still a lot to like about that movie, but I really felt like that they were trying to be cinematic pranksters by doing things the way they did. The way it was fine. It was better. And then you had to go and try this this little bit of legerdemain with storytelling, and I think it completely backfired on them.
Yep. Oh, I have a much more nerdy answer. To this day, it just utterly and completely bugs the ever-loving shit out of me that they felt the need to create that whole stupid, fucked up love triangle bullshit in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Because, and I know why they did it. I mean, I know that they did it to try to bring in like more of lady audience and whatnot. But for me, the tragedy is that those movies were about as close to filming the books as we're probably ever going to get for Lord of the Rings. I don't know, maybe 30 years when I'm old and shit, they'll try it again with all the new technology or something, but it'll probably be very similar to what we've already seen. And that shit just isn't in the book, and it always... I'll tell you another place. It just irritates me every time they shoehorn the romance thing in. Hellboy was another example where I was like, this does not need a romance subplot. It just doesn't. Like, you can have a movie that's just about people kicking the shit out of each other that doesn't have to have the main characters making out at the end. Like,
yeah, so many productions feel the need to shoehorn something in, whether it's a female character or a love triangle or what have you. And I'm all for equality in film and so forth, but let's look at The Thing by John Carpenter.
Yeah.
It's all a bunch of guys, no love triangle, no romance whatsoever, and it's a fucking amazing film.
Yeah.
And yet, Lord of the Rings, they bowed to the pressure. They put Liv Tyler in there. Why did they pick Liv Tyler? I don't know, because...
She's a terrible actress.
Yeah.
She's a terrible actress. She's very pretty. She's just not a good actress. Like, she's on that new HBO show, the Left Behinds or whatever. Leftovers. Yeah. She's not a good actress. Like, she's just very wooden. And anyway, it was just one of those things where I'm like, boy, you were so close to just really kind of nailing this shit. And the problem was that, like, I remember complaining about it when the first Lord of the Rings movie came out, and it was a very short scene that they had where she's talking to Aragorn with the sword, stuff like that I'm pretty sure was not in the book, because I was such a nerd that I got out my Lord of the Rings and was following along to just like, okay, well, that was there. And I was complaining about it to people, and they were like, well, it's this tiny little scene, like, that's not a big deal. But by the second, the second movie, they've got this whole, because when Eowyn tries to mac on fucking Aragorn in the books, he's just like, no, bitch, I'm engaged to the fucking Queen of the Elves and shit. Like, fuck off. Like, I like you and shit, but not like that. And she's like, oh. And then she goes and she has her story where she gets to fucking kill the Nazgul and all that bullshit. But I just hate it when they feel like they have to do that, because it always, to me at least, sticks out as some bullshit.
Well, in defense of Peter Jackson and his company, I really feel like that improved the story.
The love triangle thing?
Yeah.
Really?
I do.
Why?
I really do.
Really? Where she's got to turn around. She's got that big melodramatic, seeing him with their kids and all that. I mean, maybe it's because for me, I knew that wasn't in the book, and I had read the book recently, that I was just like, oh, fuck it. We're supposed to be having like the war for the fate of the world right now, and oh shit, Liv Tyler's got to turn back around because blurgity blurg blurg.
I think it improved on the film. I think it added more, or improved on the original story. I think it added some depth and some other layers of conflict there. You're
fucking with me right now, right?
No. Seriously, regardless of Liv Tyler's performance, I think that I like I like the dynamic that they had going on there. I really do.
Okay. Well, I disagree. Next up, we've got a love question, Jason. So,
oh yeah, bring it on.
Thought I'd come to the master of romance, Jason Murphy. This one comes in. It's not signed, but if it's not signed, I'm going to use the first name on the email from Lucas. Lucas says, first off, let me say that I'm a huge fan of you guys. I've been following since the Spill days and am a proud patron. This is my first time writing in, so I'll try and make my question as clear as possible. I have to go into some background before I can actually get to the question, so just bear with me. About 5 years ago, I had a huge crush on this girl. Let's call her Loretta. I don't know why you'd want to do that, buddy, but... However, I fooled myself into thinking I only like her as a friend. In reality, though, I had a mega crush on her and would never stop thinking about her. We drifted apart, and I haven't spoken to her since. But now there's this new girl on the scene. We became friends about 2 years ago, and the more we hang out, the more fondly I feel towards her. She's much nicer than Loretta, and we have much better conversations. Now, here's where things start to get complicated. I've mentioned all this to her, and she made it very clear that although she cares about me, she has no romantic feelings towards me at all. Now, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't think I have romantic feelings towards her as well. Yet, that's exactly what I said about Loretta, and that didn't turn out so well. So finally, here's my question. Is it possible to have very strong feelings towards someone without those feelings turning into romantic ones? I don't want to have those types of feelings towards her, but at the same time, I think about her a lot, and I get bummed out every time we say goodbye. Any advice you guys have on this matter would really help out. Sorry for the long email. Rage on, Lucas. Yeah,
go ahead.
Can I start by saying, Lucas, that when you say down here at the bottom, I think a lot about her, and I get bummed out every time we say goodbye. You have feelings for this person, and they're those kinds of feelings. And you can tell yourself they're not, but I'm pretty sure they are from the way you're saying
stop fooling yourself, man. Who the fuck are you lying to? You were contradicting yourself in the same sentence.
Yeah.
You like this girl. You do. So, stop being stupid about it. It's really cut and dried to anyone who is listening. So many people are like banging their hands on the desk right now and saying, "Oh, what the hell? Really? What? It's really very, very clear that yes, you do have feelings for this girl. So stop being stupid."
Well, but so here's the question, Jason. You have feelings for somebody. You're an adult, right? You've talked to them about it, and it's clear that they don't have feelings back towards you. You still want to be their friend, but that's not how feelings work. So what do you end up doing in that case? That's
no, you don't. You don't want to be her friend. You want to fuck her and have romance on her and put romance on her face.
That's you gotta write a book with this shit sometime. Like just
that's what you want to do. So it might be best for you if she's not reciprocating to just cut ties, because let's be clear, you don't just want to be friends. And if you're attracted to someone and they say no, you can't just be friends, because you're going to be fucking miserable. Don't do that to yourself. Okay? It'll be better for you to just cut all ties and launch yourself into orbit. Okay? But
I'd say, wait, what was that?
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, at least for the time being, I would say that, like, if you cut, I'm not saying you have to take this person, just never see them ever. Well, Jason is saying you just need to stop seeing them ever again. But what I would say is that if you can go, like, date somebody else, right, and have legitimate feelings for that person, it probably wouldn't be a problem. But what you're saying right now is that you seem to be lying to yourself. You were saying that you want to just be friends with her, but you were in love with her. So just realize that about yourself. And if she's not going to do anything back, then the longer that you hang around doing that, then the more upsetting it's going to end up being for you, probably in the long term. Unless you're some kind of love ninja that can control like a love Buddhist monk, right? That could just fucking compartmentalize that shit and make it into cancer or whatever. But most people very unable to do that, though. You will
hang on. What is it? You want to? Okay. No, it's cool. Go ahead, guys. I'm gonna hand the mic over to my buddy Charles. Actually,
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hello?
No.
What's this gentleman's name?
Charles St. Charles. It's so lovely to have you on the show. Lucas is the gentleman's name.
Lucas. Hello, Lucas. I'm gonna give you a little tip here, buddy.
Okay, go for it.
Put your finger in her butthole next time you see her. You just walk up and say, "Hey, what's going on?" And then you put that finger right in the butthole. Get your thumb if you can, but it might not always work because there's some logistics there. But put the finger in the butthole, and then you'll know. You will know, sir, if she's interested.
Well, that's definitely going to make things very clear one way or the other at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Let her know. And here's the thing. I'm going to tell you. If she ain't willing to get greasy with you, you just go right in there and tell her, "Hey, baby, listen, mama, there's lots of pussy out there in the world. Full stop."
Okay, all right.
Full stop.
All right.
Full stop.
Charles St. Charles has spoken. Lucas, there you have an answer from the man, the master of romances and mustaches himself, Charles St. Charles. Charles, thank you so much for straightening Lucas out.
Thank you, Charles. That was weird and awkward. Lucas, maybe don't forcibly put your finger in someone's butthole. I'm just disclaimer. Disclaimer.
That's actually pretty decent life advice. Like,
yeah.
Like, just maybe don't put your fingers in any buttholes ever. And
clearly it's worked out for Charles, right?
Unless you are asked.
He's nodding. He's
Right.
nodding and drinking cognac right now, vanilla flavored cognac.
I think you may need to go check on Charles later. I don't know if you should leave him unattended on Ceti Alpha V. I don't want to find out there's some kind of love child of Charles St. Charles and an alien worm out there in the universe. That just sounds bad. Anyway, Lucas, yeah, your best bet is probably just to distance yourself in all honesty and get the fuck away from this person, because your feelings are not going to go away. They're just going to get stronger.
Yeah.
They're going to be confusing. And
yeah, and it might seem like a dickish move to her, but sometimes it's, this is for you.
Yeah.
Take care of yourself, because you're just going to torture yourself while being her friend and pining over her. And meanwhile, she's, hooking up with guys and what have you. And that's just going to make you miserable, man. And she might be like, "What, we can't be friends?" and might be offended by that. But really, it's if you stick around while she is pursuing other guys and you're quote unquote being friends and liking her, that's just a bad recipe, and it's just going to make a mess.
I will tell you from personal experience, that shit can make you into one of the most bitter human beings on the planet. Like,
Absolutely.
I did that shit in high school, and it was bad. And if she actually comes at you and is like, "What, you mean we can't just be friends?" You be straight up with her. Be like, "Look, you're not into me, and I'm totally into you. If the situation was reversed, would you want to be my friend and watch me go out with other people?" Because I don't think that's unreasonable to say to another human being, right? Like,
yeah, no, don't do that to yourself, man.
Yeah. Don't do that, and don't do that to her either, because you're probably just going to end up fucking hating her anyway. And yeah, from my high school experiences, I've never seen that shit work out well, right? Jason, this is what people need to know. It works in the movies. I have never seen it work in real life.
No, real life, that does not work well.
No.
You sticking around while she's, fucking other guys.
Are you Hugh Grant? is she Sandra Bullock? And do you live inside of a movie? Because if the answer to all three of those is yes, then by all means be her best friend. And I'm sure that at the end of the next 2 hours, you guys will totally hook up and live happily ever after. But out here in the shitty-ass real world, that shit just it does not happen. It does not.
Yeah, Lucas, man, move on. Don't do that to yourself.
Yep.
Go find another girl to put your finger in her butt.
You just got to keep asking. Eventually somebody's going to say yes. I think it'll be good.
I don't think Charles said anything about asking.
Well, that's that. Okay, I'm going to make that Jeff's official position on putting your fingers into any butthole is that needs to be a request that you are complying with.
Oh, come on. Hello, milady. May I insert my index finger into your rectum?
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that you never put your fingers in anybody's butt unless they say, stick your fingers in my butt. Stick your fingers in my butt right now. Like,
okay. Agree to disagree.
Okay, I'm just going to say, if the situation was reversed, like,
Charles St. Charles is shaking his head right now.
Okay, all right. Lucas, you decide whether or not you decide what you want to do. But yeah, please do yourself a favor and at least get away from that situation for a while. Next one comes in from Jennifer, who says, "Greetings again, puppeteers of the fish rapist." I don't really know what that means, but after watching and playing games with quotey fingers choices in them, especially the Telltale ones, I've gotten rather jaded with the concept of choice, as I feel it's too much of an illusion that only makes the game worse each time I play it. Given how little you have an effect on both the game and the story, I wouldn't mind this if they just dropped the pretense altogether. My question is, what games have you seen / played that have a legitimate game-changing effect through choice? For me, an example that comes to mind is Dragon Age Origins, where nearly every character you have in your party can be killed, along with a lot of NPCs. Gameplay-wise, this means less team members, less NPCs to interact with, and less help to receive or get into combat into. The fact that there are story-altering choices are more of the icing for me. Thank you for reading. May Jason find Robot Santa, I think you might mean Satan, but it's very specifically spelled Santa, on Neptune and save Christmas. Never mind. Nope, that's a Futurama reference. This is, Robot Santa lives on Neptune in Futurama. Anyway, Jason, what is... it's been a while. I'm just trying to think of anything. Games that have legitimate game-changing choice in them.
Really, there are very few. Most of them maintain that illusion, but BioWare is at the frontier of that, so to speak. So, and again, I haven't delved terribly deeply into the Dragon Age games, in spite of my love for fantasy. Mm-hmm. So Mass Effect. Mass Effect, I think, really skews gameplay based on the decisions that you make. Because you could have a character that you're really invested in, that you are sinking a lot of time into, like, quote unquote, leveling them up, whatever that means. Mm-hmm. And then you make a conversation decision and they're gone. They're dead. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really have to say that Mass Effect is the best example for that. And I would love to see other games implement that. But that's a lot of programming, and not all games need that.
I think Fallout 3 has a good chunk of that in there, especially the stuff with Megaton that you can do.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
The best one that I've seen, or one of the best ones that I've seen to date, has been The Witcher 2. The Witcher 2 has a split at the end of the first real act in the game. There's a prologue, and then there's a first act, and there's a split choice at the end of there that takes you to two very different sides of the game. And then after that, there's another split, which results in, I think there's like 4 to 6 different endings where some people can be alive and some people can be dead. I don't really know if it, like, we've been talking a lot about RPGs, but Heavy Rain, I thought, did a good job with that because characters could totally die.
That's on my short list of games that I need to play.
Yeah. You could, I don't like to advocate this, but you could almost just see if there's a demo. Well, no, you really need to play Heavy Rain. I don't know. It's got some parts to it that are not really very good. But yeah, I think the Fallout franchise, I mean, just the old Fallout 1 and 2, like those are really good ones that'll let you make some interesting choices about what you want to do. Usually I feel like you've got to look for, these days you got to look for more primitive games. Like the Yogg was cool in the way that it lets you make all those decisions, right? But it was a very basic game because the core of the game was the decisions and not like
any sort of reflex gameplay,
right? Shooting and shit like that. So yeah, those are probably the ones that I would recommend. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, there's stuff like BioWare does a pretty decent job of at least giving you a couple of different ways to play the story out. Usually a good way and an evil way, but I feel like in this email that we're all a little bit burned out from just like, are you going to be a saint or the devil? Like, pick.
Yeah, Molyneux.
That's right. All right. Jason, this guy Tony has sent in this question like he was sending it to me once a day. So I'm going to read it. I'm tired of getting this question.
Jesus.
Yeah. I'm going to read it mostly because I don't really have much of an answer for it, but this is a quick one. Greetings, Jeff and Jason. My name is OIFV_Tony on the site. Been a long listener since the Spilled Days and Patreon contributor. I have a thing for video game soundtracks and their effect on the game's story, just like in film. In some instances, the music can really set the mood for the action while I play, and also the story as it unfolds in cutscenes. Depending if a character there is a character death, the right music chords. Okay, I don't know how to say this sentence. I'm trying to repair it in my brain. If there is a character death with the right musical chords, it can really tug on my heartstrings. There are 3 games that always come to mind for me in this case is Ace Combat 5, Kingdom Hearts, and Halo. My question is, do you think a weak soundtrack has an impact on the main story? Does it help the emotional impact when major events happen with you or even affect you? Do you have any game soundtracks you think are on par with the likes of John Williams, James Horner, or Danny Elfman? Best wishes and keep it fucking classy, fellas. Tony. And my answer, Tony, and the reason I haven't read this on this before, Jason, you can answer, is honestly, no. Like, I've never been playing a video game and gone, Jesus Christ, this soundtrack is just so milquetoast. Like, the classical music they're putting, or the generic techno they're putting behind this action is just has no soul, and I could care less. I'll notice it when it's good, but when it's bad, I really don't think that a lot of times it even affects me the same way that it would, like, in a movie. But I don't know. What do you think, Jason?
Now, this is my really kind of bias or predilection or whatever when it comes to soundtracks, but I have friends who can identify a soundtrack within a couple of notes. Mm. And they'll say, oh, that's from Rise of the Planet of the Apes or whatever. And I often don't get it. Mm. I'm like, okay, sure. Because to me, oftentimes the soundtrack fades into the background. Mm-hmm. And I just don't notice. Now, there are some soundtracks that really stick out for me. But in video games, I can only hum the tune of less than 5. And, that's Mario, Super Mario Brothers, mm-hmm. And Zelda. And that's the stuff that everyone can do.
Yeah.
And I don't want to diminish the impact that a soundtrack can have on telling a story in a video game, but if you were to ask me, like, oh, hey, hum the soundtrack for The Last of Us, I have no idea. Hum the soundtrack for BioShock Infinite, no clue.
Yeah.
Hum the soundtrack for your favorite game in the last year, I have no idea. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not influential and that it's not influencing my enjoyment of the game. I just can't call it to mind, because sometimes a good soundtrack is at work in the background of your mind.
Yeah.
That it's just influencing you without being overt and in your face/ear. But yeah, it's, all the stuff that I remember is the classic stuff. And again, that's not an indictment over modern soundtrack score. But that's just what's coming to mind right now.
See, I think to go back to the stuff that I like, that question of does a weak soundtrack have an impact on the story? Not for me, but what I can say is that the soundtracks from games that I remember more than any of the others are the ones from games that I played a lot, right? Like there's a tune in Dark Souls that happens every time you get to the menu select screen. Never be able to forget that, right? Because I played it so often. Or like the music from Skyrim, right? Because I've heard it so many times. I've played so much freaking Skyrim in my life. Pick any song off the soundtrack from Fallout 3, and I will sing you all the words to it, because I've listened to fucking Radio Free Wasteland with Three Dog for 200 hours. But
see, I can't remember any music. Excuse me, I got the hiccups again. Hey,
no,
I can't remember any music from Fallout 3.
Yeah,
except for the intro to the first Fallout by the Ink Spots. I know that by heart.
Yep. So I don't know. I once again, I'm kind of with you on this, where I like music and but I don't really. The other thing that may tie into this is the fact that unless it's some really fantastic, just something really utterly super interesting to me specifically, I don't listen to that much instrumental music personally, especially classical instrumental music or just kind of generic electronic instrumental music, which tends to be the backdrop of most video games. Is you'll either have classical stuff for your sword and sorcery stuff, or you'll have electro stuff for your futuristic stuff, and that stuff just isn't as memorable to me as songs with lyrics, like the soundtrack to Brutal Legend that had all that metal on it, and I loved all that, But
I'm the same way. But
I already knew all those songs, right? It's like I already knew all the songs on the 80s soundtrack in Saints Row, so that was fun, and Saints Row 4 did it really well, because they actually used iconic 80s songs as a way to recall specific scenes, or they use that Aerosmith song in the beginning when when your character's on the rocket, right? That's smart. But when it comes to just I think the only instrumental thing that I'm really, really hip to is the Metal Gear soundtrack, and it's because there was a trailer that I watched over and over again that has Harry Gregson Williams music in it. But for the most part, I feel like story is less important in a game than it is in a movie, because it's further in the background, because you have that interactivity in the foreground. That's really
you're shaping your own story in a game.
I mean, if you start playing a game and the soundtrack was just fart noises, I'd remember that and probably go, okay, I need to turn this off. This is not going to work for me. But all right, Jason, we got two more really quick questions. First one comes in. Hey guys, this is Jeffrey from Austin, Texas. No, you're not. I am Jeffrey from Austin, Texas. No, it's fine. Hey guys, this is Jeffrey from Austin, Texas. Longtime listener, first time emailer. Two quick questions, and I apologize if they have been asked before. One, what are some of the little underrated things in video games you've always appreciated but never got the attention they deserved? Let's answer that one real fast.
I don't. What does he mean by that?
Underrated things that people don't get all. I tell you what I appreciate in a video game is a fucking quick save button. Sniper Elite 3. Underrated things in video games. Things that a lot of people don't talk about, but that you really like. You know the definition of the word underrated. I don't know why I'm telling you that.
Yeah. No. I mean, the quick save button's a good one. I'm trying to think of something specific, but I'm thinking of like voice acting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's an underrated, overlooked element.
People,
you know what I mean?
People appreciate the shit out of a lot of aspects of video games, and we've been having this conversation for 3 years. I'm having a hard time thinking of anything just off the top of my head. Well, I tell you what.
Oh, you know what? Here's one.
Okay.
Menus.
Menus?
Yeah, and their interactivity and their ability for you to just navigate them in general. Because there are some where you'll go into a menu, whether it's like, you press the start button and you jump in or whatever, where it's impenetrable, and there are just so many options, and you have no idea what you're looking at. So if you've got an elegant UI and an elegant design like that, that can really make or break your game, even if it's not technically in the game proper, quote unquote.
That's a good one. That's really good, Jason. Like Spider-Man, it's weird. Amazing Spider-Man 2, the video game, had really ugly fucking menus, and I remember being a little put off by it, of like, you guys couldn't just spend a little bit more time making this a little bit more slick. We've seen, just a lot of different we've seen this shit refined. We've had years worth of experience doing this, so why is it so shitty? Well, number 2 is, since my girlfriend turned 21, she's been eager to try a lot of alcoholic beverages that downtown Austin has to offer. She's 23 now, but always sticks to the same small collection of drinks that are on the sweet side, since those are her favorite. Mainly cherry vodka sours. I don't drink myself, so I was wondering if you guys had any recommendations for her. Thanks, and live long and rage hard, Jeffrey.
All right. You know what? Cherry vodka, say cherry vodka sour?
Yeah.
That's a good drink. I would hook her up with an old-fashioned.
Okay. What's in an old-fashioned?
Try that. An old-fashioned, I can't make it, but it's got like whiskey and cherry and sours in it. It's and simple syrup. It's good. I think she'd like that. Try, just, you go up to any bar with liquor and you order an old-fashioned, they'll know what you're talking about. It's a very common drink. So try that. And then, if you don't want to get too complicated, try a whiskey sour. Kick it up a notch, be bold, drink a man's drink, whiskey.
I think that if you're downtown, so she seems to like sweeter drinks. I was going to say, if you're in downtown Austin, if you're over on like the east side or Rainy Street or something like that, I know there are a lot of really interesting Bloody Marys in this town, but it doesn't sound like that'd be the sort of thing that she'd really be into. See, personally, when I get a mixed drink, I usually get a Long Island iced tea because I hate myself and I'm looking to get fucked up extra super quick tonight. So I don't really drink. I mean, when I drink a cocktail, it's usually either a Long Island iced tea or just like a vodka tonic. I don't usually drink as many sweeter things. I'm trying to think of anything. I mean, I like a grasshopper, but once again, that's or a salty dog. That's grapefruit juice and vodka with salt on the rim. Like that's like the exact opposite of sweet. So
yeah. So no, based on what you've told us, go to any bar in Austin that will make you mix drinks and ask them for an old fashioned.
You know what? To be honest, if you go down to if you're in Austin and you go down to a place like Rio Rita, right? That we've
Rio Rita, yeah.
And you just go up there and go like, I like cherry vodka sours. What can you recommend?
Well, here's a hibiscus infused bourbon.
Right.
And it's really good.
They'll have some shit for you. Yeah.
Try some stuff like that, but something you can get at any bar. Again, old fashioned.
I like a Moscow Mule. I really like
Moscow Mule's great.
Really up my eye. There's a place that. Did you ever go to the Crowbar?
I might have been there.
On, like South First. Yeah, they had one there that had like a big chunk of cucumber in it. And the first time I got it, I was like, ooh, this is really good. It was in a smaller glass. It's like, ooh, this is really good. And it's like, oh, this goes down real simple. Oh man, this is kind of a shit drink. Like, I'm almost done with this. And then it's like, I don't really feel anything. And then I went to stand up to go get another one. I was like, oh. And that's when you know you got a really good mixed drink, when you're like, it's Kool-Aid. And then you stand up and you're like, I'm going to die.
Absolutely right. You know, I love anything that comes in a metal cup with a handle.
Yeah. All right, we're running along. Got one more question. Hello, this comes from Carlos. Hello, Rage Masters and Heralds of the Dong Lord. Seeing as how this year marked the 75th anniversary of the goddamn Batman, I'd like to know some of your favorite stories, writers, artists, and character moments that you've had the pleasure of experiencing, be it in comic, TV show, movie, or video game form. Thanks for reading, and best of luck to Jason in his conquest for solar, nay, galactic supremacy. I eagerly await your rule on Bended Knee. Your loyal subject, Carlos. I'm going to assume that he means our favorite Batman stories, writers, artists, and character moments in comics, TVs, movies, or video game form. Well, do you want to list the we could put together a list right now, right, of like the top of like 5 Batman comics that everybody should read, right?
And we're going to be on the same page.
It's good. The Killing Joke is obviously in there, right?
Yep.
Long Halloween,
Dark Knight Returns.
Long
Halloween is good. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe take that one out.
That's very good.
That one drags a little bit. It's too long.
It does.
Yeah.
My favorite one of, honestly, and I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, one of my favorite Batman arcs is Scott Snyder's Black Mirror, which you can get in trade, and it tells a good tale of Dick Grayson as Batman.
Okay.
And it is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite Batman arcs ever.
Let's see. Year One. I like Year One quite a bit.
Year One, damn good. I still have a soft spot for No Man's Land.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I ever read through that. I mean, I've only read the trades of the big stuff.
I've read bits and pieces of it, but what I have read, I've really liked.
I'm a big fan of Matt Wagner, and there was actually there was a Matt Wagner he did the Batman Grendel, and that was a good story.
Yep.
But I don't.
Matt Wagner is the creator of Grendel.
I don't know if I don't know if that would be a good. I guess it would still hold up for people who didn't know what Grendel was, but it helps more if you're into Grendel before you get into that story. But he did another story that was about, I think it was called Faces, that was Batman and Two-Face story.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
That
yeah,
had like a freak show carnival or a carnival sideshow as part of the plot. It's a really good story. Once again, it focused on a few characters who weren't either Batman or Two-Face, and that was a really good one.
Some of my favorite Batman representations are actually in Grant Morrison's Justice League.
Yeah. Batman as a pimp in Grant Morrison's Justice League.
Yeah. He is clearly the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
And when all of their alien and godlike powers fail them, they often look to Batman and go, so what do we do?
Yeah. Trying to think of some of the other like one-off Batmans. I'm actually looking at a list right now, but I don't really know very much about many of these. This is Long Halloween, Killing Joke, Year One, Dark Knight Returns. I don't know if Dark Knight Returns really holds up, Jason. Like, I think
really.
Maybe I've just been tainted by the fact that I think kind of Frank Miller's a tool now, but it's so all the stuff with the mutants and the gangs. And we've seen, I guess I'm not saying that it doesn't hold, it holds up for me because I read it a long time ago, and it was a formative, dark, gritty Batman story, right? When Batman was hawking Hostess pies and had the blue gauntlets and shit like that, right?
Yeah. It really shifted the paradigm in a dramatic way.
But I don't know, but I think that if you're talking to somebody who has been in that paradigm since the beginning, is Dark Knight Returns with all of the the mutant stuff and the gang stuff, is it going to come off as cheesy? I don't know. There's some parts of it.
I'm curious, but it is still a must read.
Yeah.
It is one of the top 3 greatest comics stories ever written.
I really like Year One, though. I really, really do like Batman Year One.
Year One's great.
Yeah, I mean,
Year One's great, and I think it will hold up to the test of time better than Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
But Dark Knight Returns took so many risks and was so potent for its time.
What about Grant Morrison Arkham Asylum? Do you think that? Did you ever read that?
I read it. It never really resonated with me. I recognized it academically as a good story, but it never connected with me on an emotional level like Year One or Dark Knight Returns, or even Dark Knight Strikes Back, to be honest.
Okay, because I think I read it when I was an angsty teen in the 90s, and I haven't gone back and read it since then. But it was really just like, it was kind of like Dark Knight Returns in that there was so much just fucking goddamn weirdness in that book that I'd never seen in anything touching a comic or a comic book character, right? Like I'd never
this
seen
beautiful abstract art.
Yeah, all
of that.
As far as the rest of it goes, what you're not talking about, do you have any other comics you feel would really need to be on that list? Hush.
No. I can't really think of any big landmarks.
Okay. Let's see. As far as Batman TV shows and movies and video games go, I mean, I think that outside of Batman on the NES, I think the Arkham series is really the only Batman game I've played that's worth playing.
Yeah. And as far as movies, honestly, as far as movies, comic books, not comic books, as far as movies, cartoons, and video games go, if you want to hold up the best example of any of those, you watch Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it puts it, I hate to say it, but it puts Arkham Asylum to shame. It bests any of the, Dark Knight Returns, whatever. Batman the Animated Series is, to me, the best representation of Batman outside of the comic books. And in a lot of cases, even counting the comic books.
Yeah, it is really good. Let's see. Did you ever watch The Brave and the Bold?
I've seen 1 or 2 episodes. I really liked it, but I haven't had time to dive in.
Okay. Yeah, so I think that, let's see, as far as movies are really easy though, right? You say what? Oh, I like original Tim Burton Batman, not so much the second one, but the first one. All the Schumacher shit is garbage, right?
Agreed.
The Nolan stuff is good to varying degrees between Jason and myself.
Yeah.
And then make sure that you go back and watch the original Batman, 1969 or whatever.
Oh, well, those are about to get released on Blu-ray, and I really want them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they finally got around all of the legal wrangling that was keeping it held up, because those were never released on DVD.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Batman, the 60s series is finally seeing a modern release.
Oh, no, I was talking about the completely ridiculous movie. The 66 movie is also not released?
Oh, well, no, the movie is released, but the movie is the same thing as the series, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but
it's I mean, they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So the movie has been released. You can find that easily. But the TV series that ties into it, that is only just now getting a modern media release. And it's all coming out on Blu-ray. It is a little bit expensive, but I think I might go ahead and invest in it. It's silly, it's stupid, and I hated it for the longest time because it influenced people's opinions on what Batman really was.
Yep.
But now I see it as just something fun and silly and light, because I've realized that Batman is kind of amorphous and can kind of take on any shape. I know what form that I prefer Batman to be, but this is still a funny, goofy, 60s inflected version of that.
Yeah, goddamn! If you've never seen the 1966 Batman movie, like I love that movie. I mean, I saw it when I was a kid, and I loved it when I was a kid. But I watched it again like 2 years ago. It's so stupid, and I love it. Like, just the
bat shark repellent, man.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. Like, he's got that giant, like, Acme black circle bomb with the sparks coming out of it, and every time he runs to throw it somewhere, there's just it's great. It's like one of the stupidest things I've ever seen, and I love it.
And I think that is why the Tim Burton Batmans were not as good as they should have been. And a lot of people think they're amazing, and a lot of people really love them, and I won't take that away from you. I won't even try, because I mean, I have seen, the original Batman 3 or 4 times in the theater, which is more than I see anything in the theater short of Star Wars.
Right.
But Tim Burton has made it clear that he's never read a comic book before. So if you watch Tim Burton's 89 Batman movie, it is clearly a darker, grittier version of the TV show. He's not adapting the comic book. He's adapting the Adam West show.
Interesting. I never looked at it from that perspective before.
Yeah. And that's fine. That's not the Batman that I prefer, but that is the Batman that a lot of people are familiar with.
Okay. Well, that is all the show we've got for y'all this week. If you have questions, you can send them into mail@rageselect.com. That is mail@rageselect.com. Jason, you give us a sneak preview of where your next stop on your Galactic Super Tour is going to be?
I will be touring the fire tubes of apocalypse.
Oh, shit. You got your boom tube ready?
Yeah. Darkseid better watch his ass.
I want a picture of Jason Murphy drinking with Darkseid. Folks, you heard it?
Yes.
Bring me a Photoshop of Jason Murphy and Darkseid having a beer together.
Fuck yeah.
All right, folks.
Hey, hit me up. I will send you pictures in the pose that you request.
Okay. Folks, thank you so much. Have a good weekend. There's going to be no live stream, but y'all all probably know that by now. And we'll talk to you next time.